All right, I first heard about this one a few weeks ago on the Truth is Stranger Than Fiction channel. Asgardia Rising, the new space kingdom.
Asgardia is a united supranational space state open to all people on Earth.
Asgardia will possess a space fleet to defend humanity and planet Earth from threats emanating from outer space. It will open its embassies on all continents. We are not the best, but we are the future. I hug each and every one of you.
One humanity, one unity.
At first, when I saw the whole ridiculousness of this and taking this new made-up ad hoc nation seriously, I thought I was going to make a bunch of jokes about Asgardians, but then I realized this is not a joke. This is very, very serious.
The solemn oath of the head of the first space nation is sworn to the head of parliament, Mr. Lembik Opik.
Today, as I accede to the position as the head of nation of the space kingdom of Asgardia, I solemnly swear to be faithful to the spirit and the letter of the Constitution of Asgardia and to be the guarantor of its observance.
The head of justice lays the sign of the head of nation on the shoulders of Igor Ashurbeili.
He can't even put the necklace on right. This is a quote-unquote space kingdom. It's the world's first official space nation, and they've been endorsed by the ISS, who put on a whole display. They showed their paraphernalia. They have written a constitution. They have all their logos and symbolism in place. They have placed their hand on the Constitution and sworn to it. They've convened in Vienna. They've had people sing the anthem and the pledge.
The national anthem of Asgardia is played. All please rise.
Course, they have put on the fancy medallion necklace in a very, very official manner. No, not like that. Yes, thank you. And this bow tie man, Igor Ashurbeili, is this billionaire who set up his own space nation just by spending enough money on it. And apparently he was born in Azerbaijan. He's lived in the Soviet Union, and he's been involved with science and engineering for most of his life. And he's got all kinds of connections to the United Nations. He was part of the ECOSOC, United Nations Economic and Social Council. He's won Russia's State Science and Technology Prize. But what he's done here has really just outstripped everything. In fact, this puts the stuff going on in Estonia that we covered in the previous video to shame. I mean, they've actually really got this going. They've got a whole cult of space backing this thing. This guy, Igor Ashurbeili, is the first head of state of Asgardia, the first ever space nation.
The solemn speech of the head of the first space nation of Asgardia in the history of mankind, Igor Ashurbeili, is being given.
Asgardians, this day will certainly be recorded in the annals of the greatest events in the history of humankind.
And with the help of NASA, and I'm sure U.S. taxpayer dollars, and other international space cooperation, they have now officially launched a satellite into lower Earth orbit, where they're going to store digital information and where they now have their first official space territory. And they're also expanding space territories throughout terrestrial Earth, both on the water and the land, and they have future plans for manned space platforms, space arcs to promote and preserve biodiversity.
Space arcs will be deployed, providing permanent resistance to humans in outer space, in environment or of artificial gravity, and protection from space radiation, thus enabling human reproduction.
For moon colonies,
satellites will orbit the moon, and stationary settlements will be established on both the moon's orbit and its surface.
And beyond, they're going to go to the stars because they are Asgardia.
Just 20 months have passed since the announcement was made of the creation Asgardia. Now there are some 200,000 Asgardians in more than 200 countries of the world. We have our own territory on the Asgardia 1 satellite.
What exactly are you up to here, Drax? Moonraker 1, liftoff.
I can therefore declare with confidence that Asgardia, the first space nation of the united humankind, has been born.
But after I got over just simply being stunned by the fact that a space kingdom had been launched and announced, and there was this new space nation that was going to have space people and even space money, well, I just felt behind the times because I just hadn't heard about it and it passed me by. But then Melissa and I looked up the space constitution of the space kingdom of Asgardia, and I was just really floored by the whole thing. And to be fair, they do express some good ideas, but if you really dig into this, you'll see that this is not the path to the future that preserves individual rights, and it is in fact a space kingdom that is based around a technocracy.
Asgardia will build an infrastructure that is independent from ground-based systems on Earth. Asgardians will carry handheld devices with integrated passports, credit cards, and conventional smartphones.
And a government dedicated not to the rights of individuals, but to the common, even though they do state that there are individual rights. So they start out with a preamble, and I'm obviously not going to go through the whole thing, but I am going to hit some highlights here. We, the people of planet Earth, irrespective of our place of birth, residence, language, gender, race, nationality, religion, or citizenship of the existing Earth states, use our free choice, will, and conviction in the desire to unite future humanity as trans-ethnic, transnational, trans-religious, ethical, fair, peaceful, looking into the infinite universe based on equality and dignity of every human being, to resolve differences, conflicts, inequality, and imperfections in human history. They're going to fix human history, bringing spiritual and scientific practices and human creative achievements to a new level, that is, the level of space, to launch a new era in the history of space humanity. And they're allowing anyone currently residing on Earth to become a citizen of Asgardia as long as you assent to the Declaration and swear to the Constitution and the laws of Asgardia. And they've actually got people who have set up their citizenships, they've proved their identity, they've got their accounts approved, very much like the e-residents of Estonia, and they're now able to upload digital profiles, store media on this space platform and satellite that's carrying various types of computer servers, but they must swear to the conditions of the Declaration and Constitution of the Space Kingdom of Asgardia. And there's apparently more than 300,000 some odd space citizens already. And I wonder how many of them have read this Constitution or really thought about it. They talk a good game, saying that we, the people of Asgardia, will do everything for the prosperity of our new space nation created by us, safeguarding our motherland, planet Earth, the development of the entire humankind in space. We are not the best, we are the future. One humanity, one unity.
One humanity, one unity.
the prime document for the creation of the space nation. So one billionaire can create one humanity and one unity with one space nation. And then if there's another billionaire, maybe someone with the title of Count, for instance, there could be two humanity, two unity. And so in the articles, you learn that Asgardia is the first independent, free, unitary, and social space nation based on morality, fairness, and peace. Whose morality, whose fairness, and whose peace? Well, they come from Asgardia's supreme values, which are established under the space kingdom of Asgardia. And the first question everyone should be asking is, if Asgardia is a space kingdom, then who is the monarch there? Who is king? Well, if you go through the document, you never learn the answer to that question. And if you go to Asgardia's Space Kingdom Frequently Asked Questions, you see they talk about why did Asgardia decide to become a constitutional monarchy, a space kingdom of Asgardia? Why not a democracy? Well, they never directly answer that question, but they say to be clear, Asgardia is a democracy. Really, that does not answer the question, why is it a space kingdom and who is the space king? Well, you learn that in the space kingdom, some of the greatest democracies in the world are monarchies, and they named the UK, Liechtenstein, the Netherlands, Sweden, and etc. It's a perceptual misconception that a constitutional monarchy is a bad thing. The Netherlands is a constitutional monarchy, and yet the most liberal country in the world, setting humanistic trends not only for Europe, but the entire world. And they basically modeled their governance in space off of the Netherlands. But at the same time, history does show that no society is perfect, and therefore Asgardia is conceived to be a new form of society, not just a regular monarchy like the great ones in Europe, but a space monarchy.
Fear the future.
But again, who is the monarch in Asgardia, the space kingdom? I just raised the question because it simply isn't answered here. Who could it be?
Could it be
Because we know it's not the founder, Igor Asher Beely. He paid for it, he set it up, but he's only the head of state for a temporary reign. I mean, after all, when you read through, Asgardia is clearly a technocracy.
I want to underscore that Asgardia is a truly avant-garde, technocratic, and futuristic state. But we call it Space Kingdom.
And if they don't tell you who the monarch is, I'd say your best guess is that the monarch is right here on screen. Someone very trustworthy, someone very reliable, someone who's never made a mistake.
No 9,000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.
I dare say that the king, if not the god of Asgardia, is AI itself.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I mean, you learn right here in Article 4, the supreme values of Asgardia shall be the common and permanent foundations of the self-identification of Asgardian citizens, and whose absolute supreme value is, quote, humanity striving into the infinite future, the infinite universe, and infinite new universes, because it is a space kingdom. And they plan to establish peace in space and permanent settlement in the universe, space guarding humanity from space originating threats, the unity of space humanity as a community. They plan to fulfill their mission for human dignity, human rights, and freedoms, and the harmonious development of individuals.
I hug each and every one of you.
The supreme values will fulfill the mission for the supremacy of Asgardians' laws. It seems a little self-reflexive. And the preservation of space environment and the community and mutual support. It's getting kind of repetitive. And scientific and artistic creativity. Okay. And belief in the boundless potential of human reason. Do not ever stop believing, not to mention labor, knowledge, and progress. Also, peace, tranquility, safety, security, respect, and confidence are all nice-sounding buzzwords to throw in on a line K. And if you didn't get enough of those words, throw in morality, fairness, and freedom. And it is, of course, prohibited to undermine or even to diminish these supreme values of Asgardia. Whatever. But from a legal perspective, of course, no one is going to space. Although they could talk a great game about Werner von Braun-style space colonies and space platforms and space circles and spaceships and space wheels, Asgardia's territory is, apart from its satellite, really only in one space territory and one space territory only, and that is cyberspace. It is a digital nation with living citizens on the planet Earth, implemented from a scientific and technological perspective from its low Earth orbit satellite. So again, all these hundreds of thousands of people signing up to protect the supreme values and the overarching absolute supreme value of Asgardia are doing so as digital citizens. Now, here's an important point. Let's get into Article 8, the rights and freedoms of space citizens of Asgardia.
The population of Asgardia will grow to comprise 2% of the most creative individuals on Earth, which is equivalent to approximately 150 million people, making Asgardia one of the 12 largest countries in terms of population and one of the top 12 economies on Earth.
All human and citizenship rights and freedoms shall be recognized in Asgardia in accordance with blah, 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 blah. And all Asgardian citizens shall be equal, but some shall be more equal than others. Persons who acquire space citizenship at birth can exercise their rights and shall perform all obligations on reaching full legal age at 18. Number 4, key rights and freedoms of Asgardian citizenships. Freedom of individual. Freedom of speech. Well, that would be important, wouldn't it? I hope nothing stands in the way of that. The right to participation in national affairs of Asgardia, both directly and via representatives. They talk all about their digital elections. Why not? The right to elect and elect appointed Asgardian governmental bodies, participate in referendi, the right to introduce legislative proposals, the right to access information about the activities of government bodies and monitor them. Okay. The right to participate in space exploration and universal access to science information about space. That sounds like it would be nice. The right to personal safety and the safety of home in Asgardia locations. Notice you don't have the right to bear arms, you don't have the right to self-defense, but you have the right to personal safety and safety of home. Guess who will protect and institute that right? I'm sure you can guess it would be the Space Kingdom. Now, they do claim that on top of freedom of speech, that there is a right to citizens' self-governance. You have the power of self-governance here, as long as nothing else in this contract negates that. The right to ownership and inheritance, that's nice. The right to organize citizen groups on the basis of Asgardian laws. But, number 9, citizen rights and freedoms may only be restricted. That's a little bit of a step down from shall not infringe and government may not and government may not impinge, etc. Citizen rights and freedoms, since they're not absolute, they're not the absolute supreme value, they may only be restricted by Asgardian laws to the extent authorized by the Asgardian Constitution, required to protect Asgardia's national interest and safety, security, performance of mission.
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
And supreme values, and or to protect the rights and legal interest of other Asgardian citizens. A bit of an asterisk there. So it's good to know that if you're a Space Kingdom space citizen, you do have the freedom of individual, freedom of speech, right to personal safety and safety of home, among other rights. However, they may be restricted under a few certain conditional clauses. Space citizens in Asgardia do have indispensable and inalienable obligations, which shall not violate the rights and freedoms. Among those include the requirement to pay taxes, but you pay voluntarily established taxes, not just any taxes. You have to pay them. That's an obligation that's inalienable. It's not your rights that are inalienable, because that's Clause 9, may only be restricted if, but what is inalienable and indispensable are the obligations, among them the requirement to pay the voluntary tax. So that's pretty good, I guess. You have the right, but also the obligation to participate in elections and referendi, and there may be consequences if you don't. And you also have the obligation to preserve nature and environment in all of Asgardia's locations. And Asgardian citizens also have an obligation towards the national interest and security and performing its mission, and of course the supreme values above which is the absolute supreme value for moving into the infinity. It is an obligation, which again is inalienable and indispensable, that Asgardian citizens shall make a contribution to the creation of Asgardia's resources to ensure the common good. Once again, your human rights, your personal rights, your right to individual, your right to free speech, those are not inalienable, but the contribution to the resources to ensure the common good, that is a required obligation, of course. And the failure to perform, blah, 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 you could have your citizenship revoked, there could be fines and restrictions. I mean, I will say this is good. There's no death penalty in Asgardia. Hey, there's a few attractive ideas in here for sure, but you've got to read those contracts. So the government is responsible for implementing and protecting citizens' rights and freedoms, but they may be restricted under certain clauses and conditions. At any rate, and I thought this was interesting, Article 10, number 6, the government shall establish its public opinion and take the same into account when making administrative decisions in accordance with Asgardia's laws. Of course, I couldn't finish that without laughing. I guess if I understand this properly, it will take into account public opinion when making administrative decisions, because they care what people think, but the government shall establish its own public opinion. The government shall establish its public opinion. When you get into Chapter 4 and Article 11, they get into human resources, which is just the world's greatest euphemism for eugenics and for using you as a data slave, a resource of information as they track and spy on you. Asgardia shall encourage the development of human resources, quote unquote. Asgardian citizens have a guaranteed right to free time for self-development and self-improvement, creative and cultural pursuits. That sounds pretty nice. You, as a human resource under Article 11, if you sign up and approve this Constitution so you can upload your digital crap to their satellite, as a human resource, as a piece of data that is worth a certain dollar amount to them, Asgardia shall support its citizens in leading healthy lifestyles.
Right. Let's see which one of us can touch his toes.
You think soda taxes are bad. Just wait till Asgardia and its space kingdom and all its citizens here on Earth leads the way on healthy lifestyles. I don't know. Asgardia's natural resources include, of course, not only material objects, energy, but also information streams, data, in-space environments in the universe, in Asgardian territory, and adjacent environments. And Asgardia's natural resources, including information streams, may be exclusively its governmental property, the property of its companies, public-private property, personal property, as well as other property under their laws. And they shall use all of these available resources, including information streams, to ensure the safety and sustainability of its natural resources, including information streams. Pretty much a blank check for tracking, tracing, spying, and the rest of it. Or maybe you read it different. Hey, it's your space environment too. But that is not all. Where it really starts to get interesting is Article 13, financial resources. I'm not making this up. I'm just reading from the Space Constitution. Asgardia's currency shall be a monetary unit named solar. Solar shall be issued by the National Bank of Asgardia in the amount tied to the parameters of the moon, the sun, and other celestial bodies set by a special law of Asgardia. Your money system isn't just fiat. It isn't just made up out of thin air. It's space money tied to the parameters of the moon, the sun, and other celestial bodies. And number 9, Asgardia shall recognize the immunity of commercial secrets and bank secrecy, right in the Constitution. Go ahead and sign your name on the dotted line. Become a Space Kingdom citizen today. Your solars are not only tied to the free market in accordance with the moon, sun, and other celestial bodies, but they have protected immunity for commercial and bank secrecy.